Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for May 13, 2023, the Mike Lynch Extradited edition. And we begin with that story as British tech entrepreneur Mike Lynch has been extradited to the U.S. to face criminal charges over the $11 billion sale of autonomy to HP. Mr. Lynch, once dubbed Britain's Bill Gates, will stand trial on charges of fraud. Given what happened to his former CFO, I would say Mr. Lynch is facing some serious jail time because no doubt he will be convicted in the U.S. for defrauding HP, even though HP knew he was engaging in fraud. Next up, from the FCPA blog, of course, Harry Casson breaks all stories around FCPA. Recidivist Koninklijke Philips N.V. Has agreed to pay $62 million for a second set of FCPA violations. Between 2014 and 2019, Philips China subsidiary used special price discounts with distributors to engage in bribery and corruption. Philips agreed to pay back $4.5 million to the SEC in 2013. At this point, there is no DOJ enforcement action involving the SEC, but the company said in a February 2013 filing that it was in discussions with the DOJ for a resolution on similar issues. So we'll have to see what the DOJ says about yet another recidivist. Next up, from Reuters, a key witness in the FIFA corruption probe will be sentenced. Argentinian businessman whose testimony contributed to the U.S. convictions of South American soccer officials on a sprawling FCPA corruption case involving FIFA is set to be sentenced today in federal court in Brooklyn. This was a huge case, one of the few FIFA cases that actually went to trial, and it showed just the endemic corruption at FIFA and with those who are doing business with FIFA. So it's going to be interesting to see what his sentence is given his cooperation. And finally, the U.S. Supreme Court reverses yet another political corruption conviction. And you have to ask the question, given the information that's come out recently about corruption at the U.S. Supreme Court, where donors are literally paying millions of dollars to justices for gifts, travel, entertainment, housing, salaries for their wives, and others, you have to begin to wonder if that's influencing the Supreme Court. So just because a bribe does not get a direct benefit, it could get an indirect benefit. Go figure. Have a great weekend. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.